Today on Online for Authors, I'm chatting with Joseph J Fontenot, author of Sons of the Arghandab. Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you for having me, Terry.
I'm super excited. This book was different than a lot of books that I normally read and difficult to read in a lot of respects, and I'm sure that you would agree. But before we dive in, tell the listeners just a little bit about what they're going to find when they open up the cover of Sons of the Arghandab.
So Sons of the Arghandab is a story about an artillery unit that was tasked with an infantry mission in probably one of the hardest areas of Afghanistan during the surge in 2010, when President Obama wanted to make an impact in Afghanistan. So he sent the 101st Airborne in, boots on ground, trying to make a positive impact in the war on terror. He sent the 101st in to make an impact as historically happens with American troops. The 101st or the 82nd generally are the two troops that get sent in. The 82nd were already on the ground, so the 101st were the natural choice to send in. Insert the 101st, and that's where we came into play.
Super. So explain to me why it is you said, hey, I've gone through this thing and now I'm going to write a memoir about it.
So Sons of the Arghandab was never supposed to be a book. I never had any intentions of writing Sons of the Arghandab. As a matter of fact, I never even kept a journal during the Afghanistan deployment. So the stories that are in Sons of the Arghandab are actually come straight from interviews that I did throughout the writing of the book. So I didn't have journals to fall back on to see what was things that I wrote throughout the year. It was actually phone conversations, interviews with guys that went through the situations that are in the book, because I wanted to make sure that everything that I put in the book was factual.
Right.
The book came to be because Andrew Bragg, the author of The Devil's Playground, was at the end of writing his book. He reached out to me and wanted me to read the closing chapter of his book, which included the relief in place with my battery, Bravo Battery, 1st to the 320th, when we came into the Arghandab and we were relieving 2 Charlie from the 82nd. And during that relief in place, there was a catastrophic event that happened to both his company and my battery, in which a life-changing event happened, and it was captured in his book. And he wanted to ensure that what he said in his book, nothing was said that was disrespectful. So he gave me the opportunity to read over that chapter. And in reading the chapter, my response to him was, it's ugly, but it's truthful. However, that's not how the story ends. And his reply to that was, I encourage you to then write your own story. So at that point, I began writing my own story. I sent it back to him and I said, if you don't mind, read this over and tell me what you think. So he read it over and said, man, this is really good. I think you should keep writing. So I did. And he in turn put me in touch with Casemate, who decided to publish our book as well, which became kind of the third book in the series, which Damn the Valley was kind of the first book on the north side of the Arghandab River Valley. The Devil's Playground was on the south side. And then Sons of the Arghandab ended up being the third book in the series.
Fantastic. That is one of the things that struck me when I read this, is that you had artillerymen, They're deployed as infantrymen. There's not a lot of training. You don't have the weaponry that you normally have. For those people who don't understand the difference between an infantryman and an artilleryman, or what that even has to do, can you kind of in layman's terms explain what happened in that situation and why this was such a big deal?
Yeah. So artillery guys usually are not on the front lines. So we're the guys usually that the infantry guys are usually in close proximity with the enemy going in. They are usually clearing houses. They're the ones who are usually on patrol on a daily basis, where artillery guys are usually miles from the front lines. They are usually in fixed positions on their howitzers. And then the infantry calls us for artillery support whenever they get in a bind. And then we send them artillery support, which destroys, annihilates the enemy. Right. And we get them out of a bind when they're in a bind. However, in this deployment, we had zero artillery support. There was no artillery support. We were now the infantry guys. So we were the guys who were tasked with going into the buildings. We were the guys who were tasked with going on patrols day after day after day. And we were out of our element. However, 2 Charlie did an outstanding job in the very short period of time that we were with them, helping us to do a quick turn and burn as far as learning the ins and outs of as much as they could teach us, as far as the ins and outs of infantry life in the Arghandab, because learning how to be an infantryman in the Arghandab is very different than being an infantryman in Iraq. And that was the experience that we had prior to going to Afghanistan, and it was vastly different.
So what were those differences? What's so different between Afghanistan and Iraq?
So Iraq, we were in just standard desert environments. So we were patrolling on just kind of like you would imagine desert streets, and there was nothing that was out of the ordinary. Sandy streets. We call them hardballs. So anything that's a hard road, pretty much, and that was common standard patrolling for us. When we got into the Arghandab River Valley, you didn't want to walk on anything that was a hard path, because typically if it was a hard path, there was a good chance that there was going to be an improvised explosive device somewhere buried on that path, because they're all farmers in that region. So we patrolled in pomegranate orchards and inside of grape furrows. And that's where the fight was typically had for us. So we were tasked with trying to interrupt the weapons flow from Pakistan into Kandahar. That was our main mission. And the main weapons flow was coming through the Arghandab River Valley through the orchards. So that's what we were trying to do. And the Taliban was using the villages inside of the Arghandab as homemade explosive factories.
Wow.
So that's why we were having to go into those orchards to get to those little villages in order to disrupt the weapons flow, in order to try and to basically stop the enemy from doing what they were doing, because without us getting to them, we were just going to continue to find more bombs with our feet.
Right. And there were a lot of the IEDs Like this wasn't just an every now and then occurrence. And from when I was reading your book, it sounded like it was almost a daily occurrence that these would be set off.
Yeah, when we first got there, it was very much it was common occurrence that we would either hit an IED, route clearance would hit an IED. It was common that someone somewhere was hitting an IED. Not necessarily our battery or Alpha battery, right, or our Havoc battery, but someone somewhere in within our area of responsibility was hitting an IED. Route clearance was tasked with trying to clear the main route, which was Route Red Dog. They were tasked with trying to come through and clear those routes to make sure that we could patrol it on foot without basically walking and hitting an IED.
Right.
There's a chapter in my book that we are on patrol, foot patrol, and we go out immediately following route clearance. And it just goes to show how quick the Taliban were. They knew as soon as route clearance would go through, they could go right back behind them, bury another IED, and we would be coming not long behind them.
Right.
And we could hit that IED. So we found an IED literally within minutes of route clearance.
That's crazy. That must have, I can't, as someone who's not in the military, to me, that is just absolutely terrifying. The thought that, any footstep could be the wrong footstep and that it doesn't matter that someone cleared the path.
Yeah. So in the book, during Operation Bakersfield 2, we shot an absurd amount of we had aerial support, so we dropped a large amount of ordnance from the sky the night prior to going into Bakersfield 2, and that was supposed to eliminate a large amount of the IED threats going into Bakersfield, because the original Bakersfield caused us several deaths and a tremendous amount of casualties, because we had a lot of guys that were Purple Heart recipients because of shrapnel, because of firefights, because of everything else that had happened during that operation. Unfortunately, when we went in after Operation Bakersfield 2, and in the book it talks about this as well, we found over 30 IEDs just getting to where our objective was. So it just goes to show you, even with the amount of aerial support that we had, we were still hitting IEDs. It didn't matter. They had the intent was to saturate the fields with IEDs, and they were very successful.
I know that one of the things that when people talk about Arghandab, they use the word deadly as part of, like, they're constantly talking about it being deadly. Why was it so much more deadly than other places in Afghanistan or other places where we have fought?
So this is just my opinion, because obviously I haven't been in some of the other areas of Afghanistan, but my opinion would be probably because of the terrain, because of the vegetation. When you can't see somebody 5 feet in front of you, and they can literally be shooting at you from just a few meters from you, and they disappear into the brush like ghosts, and you can't see them. Literally, you can't see them. So you can be in a firefight with somebody and bullets just whizzing by your head, and you don't
even know who you're shooting at.
Yeah, you really don't know where it's coming from. So they're shooting at you because they know you're there, they can't exactly see your position, but they know you're there. So they shoot at you and you don't know where they're at. So you do your best to engage based off of the rounds coming in your direction. And until the rounds stop, you either, one, don't know that you've hit something, or two, you don't know whether you are being effective or you need to continue to advance forward.
Right.
So that's that. And the terrain where we were, if you can imagine, the temperature would get up to about 115 degrees, give or take. Now, take into account that they flood the pomegranate orchards and they flood the grape fields for their crop to grow. Now, you take the humidity inside of those areas and the walls that they have to build for the vegetation and the trees for the pomegranate orchards, and you take into account all of the equipment that we have to wear on our backs, and it traps all of that heat against our bodies. So now we're not facing 115 degrees. We're facing 125, 130. There's no telling how hot it was really getting against our bodies, but the temperature was just unbelievable. It was unbearable at times. And then right when you open the book and you start reading the book, you'll notice that reality check that we get right out the gates is it's not pretty. It's not pretty at all. And the first real punch to the face that we got was because of the heat.
Right. People not recognizing how bad it was and what it could do to your body and how quickly it could do that to the body.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that you had to think about the water that you carried and how you were going to use it. And, I thought it was very telling, the number of people who were willing to take my water as someone is suffering, knowing that if they don't get back in time, they'll be in the same spot.
Yes.
Because if they don't have their water. And so it was a very, I can't imagine. I live on the coast of North Carolina and it's hot here. And there were days like this summer, at one time this summer, there was a feel like temperature of 110. And I thought I was dying. And I wasn't doing anything other than sitting. So I cannot imagine that kind of heat and humidity with the temperatures up that high and then trying to function. You're not sitting on a front porch with a fan. You're out there, like you said, equipment and helmets and just all your gear and how hot that has to be.
Yeah, Terry, I can tell you that it gets hot enough to where when we would patrol, we would go through canals, and we would have to, sometimes we would patrol in the canal to prevent the IEDs. Right. So like the easiest way to get from point A to point B was to patrol through the canal. And then once we would get closer to the objective, we'd get out of the canal. So we would be wet most of the patrol. When we would get back to our respective outposts, we would just take our clothes off and just lay it on the rocks. And within a matter of minutes, it would just be dry. That's how hot it was. That's how hot it was.
Yeah, that's really, really difficult. Are there any lessons that you think were learned from this year that you guys were out? Did the military itself or your unit learn lessons that will be valuable in future times from what you went through?
That's a tough question. I hope so. I hope that they learn lesson wise as far as, I hope that they learned lessons on what to do on the back end. I hope that they learn lessons on how to take care of their soldiers, as far as the behavioral health repercussions, mental health repercussions on things that they've seen, because no matter how hard you try and justify or try and make death a natural part of what you see. When you see your friends get blown to pieces, it's never going to be natural, no matter how hard you try. And that in itself, I hope, is a lesson that was learned in the aftermath of our deployment. I also hope that the amount of time that was allotted for our unit prior to the train up for us to go to Afghanistan, especially being in the conditions that we were falling into, I hope that they allot units in the future more time to prepare.
Okay.
But sometimes, Terry, to be perfectly honest,
sometimes it's not possible.
Sometimes it's just not feasible. Things happen, and units have to adjust on the fly, and you go out there and you just do your best with the training that you have. And sometimes that's just
at the end of the book, you talk a lot about the men, where they are now, that kind of thing. And you did mention quite a bit of the mental health issues. And that was something that I did want to talk about today, that these mental health issues are related to these deployments. And what is currently being done for people who have seen their buddies blown up, when that is, like you said, not anything that is ever natural in anyone else's life experience?
So there's different programs that are out there. There's the VA catches a lot of backlash, unfortunately, for not enough being done. But I guess from a bigger picture, when you see something catastrophic happen to a soldier, to a Marine, any veteran, right? The knee-jerk reaction is always going to be something that's going to be a big deal. There are programs out there. The big issue is that a lot of veterans, myself included, don't feel comfortable in certain settings, speaking to certain people. We want to be with people that are like-minded, that we feel like we can relate to. So there are programs that are out there that are group setting programs that we can talk to other veterans, that are group setting counselings that are allotted to us. The VA has them. There are programs through DAV that are out there where you can use those. There are hotlines that are available through like 988. You can call that number, and there are hotlines to where if there anybody who is suicidal, you can even there are even numbers that you can text directly. Unfortunately, me being older, I don't care about picking up a phone and calling somebody, but there's technology age. A lot of people don't want to pick up a phone. A lot of people would rather just text. So now there's phone numbers that you can just text if there's a lot going on. There's support groups on Facebook. There's support groups on Instagram. There's resources out there for veterans. Now, on the flip side of that, and this is just me being perfectly honest with you, Terry. Most veterans, when veterans get to that point, they feel like they have exhausted a lot of resources. A lot of us, we turn to our buddies first. First and foremost, we want to turn to our buddies because we know that they've been
there, they've seen it, they know
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You don't have to start from the beginning and explain anything. They know exactly what you're talking about.
That's exactly right. I have one of my buddies that helped me with some of the interviews in the book. Sergeant retired Zavala. He was in Alpha Battery. He's got a Purple Heart. He's been going through treatments, and as well as he has TBI, and he has been using different alternative treatments for post-traumatic stress, and those alternative treatments have been very beneficial for him. And there is a program, I believe it's on Netflix, called in something War and Waves or something like something like that. Anyways, that program, it has kind of brought light to some of the different resources that veterans have to seek for mental health.
Right.
Because even like the Navy SEALs, they're supposed to be the best of the best, the most elite forces out there. So these guys are supposed to be untouchable. They're never supposed to show weakness, all this other stuff, right? But even those guys have, began admitting like, hey, we're not Superman. We have issues in Waves in War, I believe is what it's called.
Okay. All right. Are you still active military?
I actually just retired.
Okay.
So I'm on terminal leave right now, and I have officially said my goodbyes. My retirement ceremony is on 30 January, but I am officially retired.
Officially retired. So between the time of getting back from this assignment and now, that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
How difficult is it as an active duty military soldier to seek mental health while active duty? I understand it's a lot easier once you're retired because now you're not concerned with what people might think or how that might affect your next deployment or how it might affect, whether or not you get the next jump in rank and all of those things. How difficult is it to seek help during that 15 years? Because you don't come home from a deployment like that and you're fine.
Yeah.
So how is the military handling that to make it okay for someone who saw what you saw to be able to then seek the treatment that they need while still active?
Terry, so once again, just my experience.
Yeah.
I came back from the Arghandab in 2011. As soon as I came home, I was on assignment to be a drill sergeant. Had I gone to seek any type of behavioral health at that point, that would have cut my legs out from under me and I would have never became a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
Okay. So that, right off the rip, that prevented me from going to seek any kind of counseling at that point in my career. Then life happens, lives. And I got busy with my career, became a drill sergeant leader, kept going, and then started pursuing, my career, doing the best I could, and taking care of my life, taking care of my family, doing everything that I could, and mental health, to be honest, or behavioral health, kind of took a back seat. It took a back seat for me to go and get help. However, everything continued to pile up like a stack of bricks.
Yeah, because issues like that don't just disappear because you're not looking at them.
That's 100% accurate.
Right.
So I was actually speaking with a loved one, I want to say yesterday or the day before, and we were talking about Chester Bennington from the band Linkin Park. who committed suicide.
Yeah.
And he wrote a song called Heavy. And in that song, nobody knew it at the time, but he was pouring out his heart in this song. And it's like, why does everything feel so heavy? And just like he was pouring out his heart, in this last 15 years, there were so many times that everything felt so heavy. And to be honest, I didn't go seek any kind of help, because as soon as I did, I felt like the rug was going to get pulled out from under me.
Right.
And I believe that regardless of what anybody says, regardless of what anybody on the higher food chain says, there needs to be something that soldiers can believe. Show us something tangible. Show us something in writing that if soldiers go and seek behavioral health, soldiers go and get help, that you're not going to pull the rug out from under us.
Right.
So show a staff sergeant that when they go to be a drill sergeant, that
it won't be held against them.
That it's no longer going to be held against them, because there's all these checks and balances throughout our career that says if you did this, then you could no longer do that.
Right.
So behavioral health, I understand, like there's certain things that if you have certain things,
certain problems, certain issues, that should preclude
like
you.
If you have certain stressors, then this is probably not the job for you.
Right.
And I understand that. But at the same time, you are preventing people from going get help because they are trying to make a career out of the military. And it's a double-edged sword. Do you want this person to go get help so they could have a long career and a healthy career, or
do you want them to hide it so that they could have a long career but not as healthy?
Yeah.
Right. It's interesting. My son is actually a therapist, and he considered going into the military to do therapy in the military and chose not to. And his reason for doing it was, he said, because I would turn into the punishment arm, and the people who came to see me would know that what they were going to get off the other end wasn't the help that they needed, but essentially a mark of this person can't fly, this person can't do this person can't do that. He said, I just didn't want that. He said, as much as I feel they need the help, I knew that I wouldn't be seen as help. So that was his take on it. What's next for you, Joseph? You're done. You've retired. What are you doing now?
I am I just now starting to enjoy life. I just moved to Texas.
Okay.
And I have, the world is my oyster right now. So I have talked to several people about the book. William Yeski, from the author from Damn the Valley. He is talking about maybe turning the collection of books into something bigger. So we'll see if that materializes. I'm going to more than likely be working with a company called Vertex. We'll see if that materializes. But to be perfectly honest, I'm looking forward to touching back with my music side. Before I joined the military, I was a professional musician. So I don't know if I'll be flipping my hair around anytime soon. But I've started playing my bass again, just because I enjoy being artistic, and just being creative again. And I believe that that's another form of therapy.
Absolutely.
That veterans could definitely tap into, especially on the back end of their careers. Music is an outlet that, veteran or not, it's a huge tool that can it can heal people, and it doesn't matter what kind of music you like. It can be the angriest of music, but it can touch your soul and it can make you feel great. And it could be the most therapeutic yoga type music, and it can put you in a trance. Believe it or not, I have a playlist that says "Be Where Your Feet Are." And that playlist is as calm and therapeutic as you can possibly imagine. And I have another one that is called Awakenings, and it's my gym playlist, and it is the complete opposite.
And both of them do something for you, which I just think is fabulous about music.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, hey guys, if you want to keep this book conversation going, head on over to Novels and Latte Book Club on Facebook. There you will have an opportunity to win a digital copy of Sons of the Arghandab. So just tell me something that you liked or learned from this conversation, and you will be in the drawing. Joseph, if someone wanted to reach out to you, talk to you about the book, talk with you about your career, about what you're doing next, what's the best way that they can reach you?
They can reach out to me at the Sons of the Arghandab Instagram page, and just look up Sons of the Arghandab. And that's probably the easiest way to reach me. And, I would love to hear about anybody's experiences. Also, if you happen to read the book, leave me a review on Amazon, and let me know what you think. I'm happy to read positive or negative. It doesn't matter. As long as it's a review, in my eyes.
That means someone read it, right?
Yeah.
As an author, it's like, oh, you read it long enough to want to review it. That's perfect. That's
and in my eyes, to be perfectly honest, the book was never about anything other than keeping my guys' memories alive.
Right.
And if somebody read the book, then the book was successful. So that's the whole point. So
fantastic. Well, guys, I'll have everything in the show notes for how to get in touch with Joseph. Like you said, run out, grab the book, read the book, and then make sure that you leave a review. And Joseph, I want to thank you so much for being with me today.
Well, thank you, Terry. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Online for Authors, where I, Terry M. Brown, author of character-driven fiction and host of the podcast, introduce readers to characters they'd love to invite to lunch. Tune in next Tuesday for another podcast episode.